Welcome to this HelloID webinar brought to you by Tools Forever. Today we'd like to give you an overview of the new functionality in HelloID. We encourage you to ask questions. You can do this via the chat option. You can find the option here. At the end of the demonstration, your questions will be answered. I'd like to turn this over now to Cheered Sign-In, HelloID Product Owner and Manager. He will explain and demonstrate the new HelloID functionality. Please enjoy, and don't forget to post a question.
Jamie, thank you for that introduction, and welcome to this webinar video of the product release 2020-10 October. The release that we shipped last week has some new exciting functionalities, which I will demo in this video. As usually, I will explain features in the presentation, and after that, I will do the demo inside HelloID. Let's start. First off, provisioning. So provisioning has a lot of new features. So the first feature is the support for not condition in a business rule. This allows us to invert the current conditions from the business rule and say something like everybody that's not in the department assembly or doesn't have the title manager. The second feature is the support for agent selection for on-premise systems like Active Directory or the PowerShell target systems. This is really helpful, so we can select the correct agents that the task for the system should run on. So we can set the security settings and things like that on the service account running that agent. So we know which agent is running what actions for what system. Really nice one. The third one is a smaller change, is that we added the username inside the correlation report. For Active Directory and for Azure, we added the user principal name. So it's easier to detect the uniqueness of the account because the display name is not always unique. The fourth one is that we allow to put in parameters from a UI interface inside the PowerShell target connectors and actions. So it's easier to set up things for a customer or a consultant, and it's easier to manage things from a UI than instead of the PowerShell code. But this one is a little bit difficult to explain, so you will see this in the demo. For service automation, we got a small change. We have the hostname of the agent and some other parameters inside the process log of the task. So it's easy to detect which agent is running which task. So it helps you with debugging the task inside the task history, as you can see in the demo. Beside this, we're really busy with the data source performance, which is improved a lot. I already saw a sneak preview, but this will be released in the December release. And another big feature is that we do a redesign of the end user portal. So the team is really busy with that, and that will be released in the November release. If you want to see this, you can go to the roadmap. So for access management, we currently have no new functionality in this release. This is because they're also busy with the redesign for the portal, and we had some stability issues and performance issues inside access management, and they're really focused on that and fixing that. And we fixed that before this release. And they're also busy with new kind of reporting we call the Elastic Stack. And that will be in the product on the November release, so the first reports. So that will be really nice. So let's start the demo. As you can see, I'm already logged into HelloID. So let's show the first new feature, which is the support not condition in the business rules. So let's go to the provisioning module. And firstly, we search for a person named Holly. And here you see her. And I want to check on the contracts and see that she has a department for the sales field service staff. We can use that in the business rules. So now we're going to the business rules. where we can add a new one and define a condition. So here we can say, okay, we're going to filter on a department, and in this case we're going to filter on the department sales field service staff. If we add this, Holly should be the only one that gets in the scope. So what we can do now, which is the new option, is to invert this condition. So now we have selected everybody except Holly. So let's save this. So let's create a rule which says everybody except Holly, and save this, because I want to show a difference here. Because if we are going to Holly in our source system and we change her and we're adding a contract for a different department, let's say administration, and save it, then we're going to import the new data from the source system. This could take a second. Let's check if the data is imported correctly. So now you see a second contract with the department administration for Holly. If we go back to the business rules we just defined, everybody except Holly, we will see that Holly is included in the scope and not excluded anymore. This is because we say, okay, it's not only the department sales field service staff. So in this case, she has a department administration, so not only sales field service staff. So please keep in mind that if you have multiple departments or multiple titles here, it's not only, so it's not that one of her contracts is this field. No, she doesn't have any other departments with this contract field. So let's go to the second feature, which is the agent selection for target and source systems. I know the title said only target system, but it's target and source system. And of course, it's only the on-premise systems. So let's go to a target on-premise systems. In this case, let's use the Active Directory, which is a nice system where we can use it. And you will see a new interface part here with the agent configuration. Here we can select new agents and see the current status of an agent. So here you can just one agent is selected and currently it's active. Else it's inactive for more than 2 minutes. With the agent configuration we can select and deselect agents for the system. So all the selected agents here are used for system actions. So currently I have only one agent selected, but if I remove all the agent selection tags, it will select all my agents. And if I go back to this part, you'll see that currently now 3 agents are selected, 1 inactive and 2 are active. So I want to go back because we have a lot of options to select the agent. So first off, you can do it on the computer name. So then you're just selecting one agent and it will use that. The second option you can do is use the agent pools that are defined in the HelloID agent configuration. A third option is using the domain, which is really easy to use for Active Directory on-premise. And the second one is, or the last one is the custom tags. So the most easy one for the domain is using the domain, of course, because in this case, if a new agent is registered that's running on the enjoy.org domain, so it's on a machine running on a machine that's joined in the enjoy.org domain, it will automatically be added to this system, so a task can run for Active Directory on it. So that's an easy and powerful one for the Active Directory system. Another option what you can do is add custom tags to an agent. So in this case I can add, or I already added the custom tag ID, but I could also say, okay, I want this as an exchange custom tag. You see AD and exchange. And now I can also select my agent selection on those tags. So in this case I want to select all the agents with exchange. And of course I can add the exchange custom tag to another agent, and then you see both are selected. It's also possible to remove the custom tag. So in this case I want to remove the exchange, and you'll see the SRV HelloID is unselected again. Remember that the agent's tag selection is an OR condition. So if I say here I also want the custom tag ID, both the exchange and the ID are selected. Another option we have in the agent selection is the use of the PowerShell version. This is mostly used for agents that are for systems that are custom PowerShell systems. And here we can say in the selection, I want to use all the agents with an PowerShell version higher than 5.1. So that's easy if you were using a custom PowerShell system which are using a particular version of PowerShell. But in this case I'm just using my enjoy.org selection because it's the most easy one for Active Directory. The same we have in the source systems. So if we go to source systems and we go to an on-premise system, we have the agent configuration here, and you can just select the agent you want to run it on. And you also see that the custom tags are also added for this system. And I can select, in this case I selected my agent pool to be decided which agent this system should take his actions on. For our third functionality, we made a change in the correlation report. So let's go to Active Directory and then the correlation report. And here you can see that we added the SAM account name between braces in the account display name. So you can easily define if this is really the account you're looking for. This is because the display name in Active Directory isn't unique, but the SAM account name is. For Azure AD, we use the user principal name between the braces to make it unique. So for our fourth functionality, the input parameters for the PowerShell target system, we need to go to a PowerShell target system. So let's go. And I currently have here one. It's called Topdesk. So here's nothing unusual to see. And if we go to account, there's something new here. So the custom connector configuration. And this helps to put in the configuration in a user interface so it's easier to manage. And what we can do here is we can go into the configuration and you will see an example is loaded. And here you can see a preview of the user interface. It will show in the configuration where you can change settings for a connector. So as example here we have a couple of fields with different options. So we have a text input field, a multiple line input field, a password field. Here we have an example for an email field. We have the addition of a toggle and the radio buttons we can add to the user interface to make it easier to configure. So if I save this, you will see a new tab appears on configuration, and here you will see all the fields available that I've created before as an example. And what this does is if I put here in a value, let's say test, that value will be given as an input parameter to all the actions that we can configure here in the PowerShell action. So this makes it really easy for a customer or a consultant or everybody to configure a connector, because we can ship some default examples of the configuration in our GitHub repositories. So as an example, I have an example of the PowerShell from GitHub. So here you can see, okay, I have created an URL, a username, and a password, or an API key, I have to say. And I can type something like this, temp, and you will see the result automatically here. So this means an input key, I will get URL with this value, username with this value, and API key. And you cannot see the value because it's a password field, so it's hidden. But you will get the value, of course, inside the PowerShell script. So if I save this, save it, I'll see the configuration here. And now I just simply have to use it inside my action. So here, normally I have the default values that were previously put into the actions, but now I can do something like this: config, convert to from JSON configuration, because this is the input parameter it is inputted in, all those keys, and I can just say here config .url, config .api key, and config .user. Now you don't have to have any values inside the actions, but you can just easily define them inside the user interface and send it to the actions. Which really is important is to look at the key inside the configuration. So this value, because this value determines the key and how it's sent to the action. So in this case, it's URL, username, and API key. And I think I already made a mistake, because shown in the action, I said user, and it's actually username. So it's really important to remember that. At last, we have the agent information on the task running. So you can see which task is running on which agent for service automation. So let's go back to the manage portal, go to automation and the task history. And here you see a couple of tasks that has run, and we can go to the details and see the process logging. And here we have the agent information. So now we know that this task, this particular task, has run on the SRV HelloID 01. So this can help you with debugging any issues or problems, and you know which agent has run, so you know which service account, and you can check the permissions for that service account, things like that. Okay, this is all the functionality I wanted to cover for this release. And I think, yeah, there are some questions. Jamie, can you ask the questions for me? Thank you.
Good morning, Rick. Thank you so much for that demonstration. We do have a couple of questions here. The first one, is an agent automatically selected when freshly installed for system actions?
This depends on the configuration. There are three options where an agent is automatically selected. The first one, if there are no tags added. The second one, if there is a domain tag added. In this case, if the machine on which the agent is installed is in the same domain, it will be automatically selected. And the third option is when you use the PowerShell higher version. If the PowerShell is running on a higher version than that's selected in the tag, then it will be automatically selected to run the actions for the system. The other ones, you have to manually add the agents like the custom tags. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, is it possible to invert the condition on cost center, just like the department's example?
Yes, it's possible to invert the conditions on all the fields of a person and a contract. So in this case also the cost center field. Thank you.
Okay, last up, you had said something about new reports during your demo. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, in November we're going to release a new reporting platform. It's based on the Elastic Stack, and it's an open source software, and it gives us a lot of capabilities in the reporting part. So it's fully integrated with HelloID, and we're going to add new features like creating your own reports in the future, and we're adding loads of more data on it. So we will have a lot of more info on what's going on inside HelloID. Okay, Jamie, I see this was the last question. And everybody, thank you for your attention, and hopefully see you next time.